again to another episode of Self-Care Sunday. I am joined this time by an all-female cast, and they're here to join the conversation. We're going to be talking about Black representation in the industry today, whether that's in art, music, fashion, or just our regular day-to-day workplace. So my first question is going to be based on individual identification. There seems to be a divide amongst what we identify as, if we think we are considered Black, if we're African American, Caribbean American, etc., whatever it may be. There seems to be a debate on what that is. I do understand that those divisions were created to really figure out who lives where, as far as funding goes, as far as your census goes, what you check on a box, but not just what you check on a box is important. I want to know what it is that you individually identify as. As for me, I was born in Jamaica. My parents are from Jamaica, from my knowledge, but I am of African descent. So I choose to call myself an African American. Some people can say, well, you're not born in Africa, and you weren't born in America, so you're not American. But for me, that's what I choose to identify as. Anyone else can jump in and let me know what you choose to identify as and why.
My parents, grandparents, and as far back as I know, born and raised in Jamaica, and I was born in the Bronx. But I identify as Black and Caribbean American because the same reason you said, but the opposite. I don't even know where my ancestors are from. So from my knowledge, everybody that I've been in contact with as far back as my parents know have been from Jamaica. I don't know of any distant relatives that are from any part of Africa, so I don't consider myself African American at all. I always say Black or I say Caribbean American. So that's kind of how I've figured out my roots.
I originally used to just use African American and Black because they never had this Caribbean Black until recently. And ever since I started seeing that, I felt closer to that identity than any of the other ones, because I felt like Black was erasing a part of my background. And African American, although I am a descendant of Africa, I don't know Africa. I've never been to that continent. I don't know anyone closely to me that is from that continent, but I know all of my family is from the Caribbean. So now I've been using that identification a lot more because I feel more closer to it. And I like to not feel like I'm being forced into a box that I don't really identify as.
Well, I think I have a little bit of a different take on how I identify myself. So again, my father was born in Jamaica. My mom was born here. And I think, all my life, I identified as either African American or Black, African American or Black. But like Tashana was saying, that's all part of the property of the United States. Those were like the identifiers. And so as I got older, like now I'm starting to feel like I don't want to identify with either, And I think the more I'm like educating myself and, seeing, how everything is tied to certain things and, something that you alluded to, Nicole, about being put into a box and feel like you have to identify as, obviously in America, you could check other if you want to. But I'm still working on that within myself because I feel kind of torn and don't really want to identify as either. So that's where I'm at right now.
I've always Black, and then occasionally African American because it was just being done. And then I thought, why do we keep allowing ourselves to be identified by outside people? And then why does that have to become a fight or an argument? Why can't we just be who we are? And at the end of the day, we're all Black and brown people. And you should identify with what you know to be your culture. But at the end of the day, we're all Black and brown people. And I don't see why it has to be an argument or a struggle. We should be free to be who we are. And that's that. I just think we just waste too much time allowing others to dictate what we should identify with, who we should identify as, and that becomes a whole debate.
I do identify as Black, but like my godmother said, you know, I really didn't start identifying as African American until I guess it was like they were doing the proper thing. So we really have to identify them as African because that's where they came from. And even like they're all in the South, but we came from Africa. But I identify myself as mixed because, as you know, Tashana, I am mixed. So I would put Black and Hispanic.
I mean, honestly, that's a tough one, right? Because there's so much literature that points to all of us, all people are from Africa, right? So technically speaking, you would say, well, if all people are from Africa and that's the motherland and the birthplace of all people, then we're all technically African, right? And then you have to put into place slavery, where you were dropped off at, right? So your nationality now comes into place, where you were raised up, how you were raised to be. So I can say that, yeah, I was born in the Caribbean islands, so was my parents, but my people aren't from here. I can say my people, my descendants are from Africa, because if that's the birthplace, but that can go for a white person as well, right? If that's the birthplace of all people, a white person can say, well, technically, then I'm African too, right? So I think that those identifiers for Black people became such an important factor because it was something that was kind of taken away from you. Like you said, you've never been to Africa. You don't know anybody there. Your culture, technically, your technical background descendant, your culture was taken away from you. So you don't identify as that because you don't know anything about it. So I think out of pride and all of those things, people started embracing that terminology even more because it was almost frowned upon for you to be considered an African American or an African in general. Even for me going to school, that's something that it was almost like the African kids were just the ugly kids or the kids that were really shunned for some reason. There just weren't much pride around being considered African. If somebody called somebody an African that they weren't identified as, it was a problem for them when I was going to school. So, you know, I think that people started really embracing those things because it was part of our culture that we got stripped away from and we didn't really know.
I was saying, I agree with you with everything you were saying. So that's so much history and so many things wrapped around, you know, everything, you know, that we've been taught and not taught and didn't have knowledge of, you know, our history. So we kind of develop our own kind of culture here in America, you know, whatever that is, right? Whatever they say that is.
And the next question is going to be about Black cliches, right? How do you guys feel about Black cliches, whether it's empowering, whether you think it's completely a demise to you, whatever it may be? What do you feel about Black cliches that have been thrown at you? Give me some examples of some that you feel like are just straight up a cliche.
I feel like the cliches make you not want to feed into it. Because like one of the number one things that I always hear is watermelon and fried chicken. And I happen to really like both of those things. And I feel like if I want to be outside eating some watermelon, somebody's going to be like, well, she's Black. She must like the watermelon. Like, I just happen to really like watermelon. Why does that have to do with the cliche at all? Like, I don't understand. And then like I don't know if this, I've heard this before. I don't know if this is a kind of a well-known thing, but I've heard that white people like mayonnaise and Black people don't really like mayonnaise. Maybe that's the thing that I've only heard. I don't like mayonnaise. And I'm like, crap, if I were to eat mayonnaise, would they tell me that I'm white? Like, it's weird. It gets you into this space where you feel like you don't want to do the thing that makes you fall into the cliche. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm just living my life, why does it matter? Like what I do for my own personal self has nothing to do with you and what you think. So you know what? I'm gonna eat my watermelon. I'm gonna eat my fried chicken. I'm gonna be happy about it because at the end of the day, it's my decision and my opinion about myself, and I really don't care, honestly.
You know, some of the cliches are kind of funny. You know, within our own community, we laugh and we're like, you know, some of them are facts, and some of them are just, you know, some things that you see on TV. You know, Black women are so loud and so rowdy, or, you know, just all these different ideas of what that could look like and show up, you know, in the media or just in your community in general, what people think about it. And it's like, well, you know, everyone has emotions. Everybody's different. So I think it's just something to target and to talk about, you know, smear campaign. The more you talk about these things and have these cliches for, you know, the Black community, it's just like, trying to down the Black people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I love watermelon and fried chicken, first of all, and I love mayonnaise. So I don't know where any of those stereotypes come from. I'm not galloping it on, but I do like it. Another stereotype that it irks me very much when people think that it encompasses all Black women is this idea that all Black women are angry or all women are just filled with rage all the time, waiting to come out. When at the end of the day, we all have those things that push our buttons that get us to the point where we have to express ourselves. But I feel like as a Black woman, if I express myself, it's taken more harshly than if my white or express themselves the same way. And that, I feel like me standing up for myself should not matter because of my skin color. It should matter because of what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is important to what I'm feeling in this moment. And another stereotype that I feel is another issue for me is this idea that we have to speak a certain way to be seen as proper. I've had so many times where if I'm talking, they say, "Oh, you've put on your white voice." I'm like, no, this is my professional voice, not my white voice. This is my Black professional voice. Just like we code switch amongst our friends, I can code switch in a professional setting. So that's another one that just gets me.
Code switching is real, but there are cliches, and you know what it is? I've come to the conclusion. This is my theory on it. The cliches exist because it's true, right? It's like we have so many stereotypes, and these stereotypes are true, and they're true because we're raised by the same people. We're culturally raised on the same food, so that your food your parents ate, they fed you. So yes, why you like fried chicken, and that's why they say all of us do, because that's what we ate in the neighborhood. That's what we went to grandma's house, auntie's house. That's what it is. And all Black women are considered angry. And don't lie, tell the truth. If you were to be in a facility and you heard somebody getting loud back there, in your mind, you're going to be like, that was a Black girl that did that. I know it was somebody Black back there acting crazy. They're about to, and I don't know why we think this way, but I am guilty of it. When I hear some rowdiness, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm surprised if it's a white person. I'm surprised. If the person's Caucasian and is really back there throwing hands, I am surprised that it's happening. Because for me, I know that as African American women, we tired. We are up here with everything that we have to go through. And it just gets to the point where we just gotta say what we have to say because we're just tired. And that's my opinion on it, but the cliches are true. Look at us. All of us right here disagree. We like fried chicken and watermelon. You're not going to say that it's a Black girl. It's a Black girl thing. I don't like no mayonnaise. I don't like mayonnaise. I'm against condiments unless it's hot sauce. Another Black thing. I love my hot sauce. Put it in the purse. Carry it with me. Carry it with me. I'm just saying. It's a real thing because we grew up in our homes with our parents eating hot sauce or whoever, so it just kept passing down. Your diet passes down. The crap you eat and drink passes down. So here we are, later descendants going, all Black people like fried chicken and watermelon.